is home. We're Yemanjá. We're missing one member, but we are Yemanjá here in Isla Bacimentos in Bocas del Toro in Panama. Thank you so much for coming, and you guys are awesome.
And then in New York, I waited tables. I worked in more kind of like sandwich shops, like fast casual kind of places. I worked in kitchens, but not cooking and doing like expediting, that kind of thing. And then I also worked as a photographer in New York at the same time.
Well, I went to school for marketing, and I worked. My last job was in a shipping company. I drove a cargo van. I also worked in restaurants. I worked in clothing stores. So the idea of Yemanjá started with Pascal and I. We were sitting in the beach in Mexico in Playa del Carmen. We were sitting there with the moon and the beach and the stars and the sound of the waves and the boats dancing around. And we had a moment that we decided to just come clean and tell each other our dreams and aspirations in life. So I was like, you know what, like this might sound really crazy to you, but I always wanted to have a hotel. Like I studied hotel management, but I changed majors because I thought that was crazy, And then she was like, well, you know, like I always wanted to open a restaurant, and I think that's crazy too. Let's do it together. We were by the ocean. So at that very moment, we decided to call it Yemanjá because we're women and we wanted the place to represent women, and we wanted it to represent the ocean also. It started in the beach in Playa del Carmen. We went back to New York. We had no money. We had a mental photo of what we wanted to do and how the place had to look. When we were making the business plan and coming up with the vision and the mission and all those things, one of the main things that we wanted, and I think that we have so far accomplished, is to kind of bridge the gap with the locals and the tourists and the travelers. But we found like a lot of the places in the Caribbean that like a lot of the hotels and a lot of the places just, you know, kind of keep the two separate. Like the people that live in the locals and the tourists are always kind of two separate worlds. And we wanted to create a place, kind of like a platform for these two worlds kind of to meet and interact. And we started having these parties to fundraise for us to travel along the Caribbean coast of Latin America to figure out what place was better.
And I guess from there we all came down here together and started seriously looking for like a specific location. We found a place, and then we went back to New York and started preparing and getting everything together and really raising the money I guess we really needed to start the business. We were thinking of like doing different kind of fundraising things, like having dinners in New York and things, and I think we realized Kickstarter would probably be the most effective. Kickstarter campaigns or crowdfunding campaigns that are successful is that like they have a story, like a story that people can like, you know, they watch the video or however they present it, and like people can like feel like they can relate to it. The initial planning and stuff, there's a lot less conflict as in like between us, because I think we all had kind of like the same concept and idea. I think once we were actually here and like doing it, I think that's when it became like more difficult.
Living here, you realize that you don't need as much, but the things that you need, you really need, like water. I think I find myself like I don't really look at myself in the mirror ever. I don't like. Shut up. It's certainly different, but it's great. I really like it. But there's like the bare necessities that you really do need, like water and food, and you realize how essential they are, which is, I suppose, the opposite in big cities like New York, where sure you need water, but it's always there that you don't really think about it. And there's other, I suppose that's why there's space for these other things to be added on. What was different? I guess one of the things we learned was that we had this idea about how the place would look once we opened.
I think especially coming from somewhere like New York, where new businesses usually, I don't know, they have a lot of money, and it's just places, you know, they build out a whole location and make it like almost a fully realized thing, and then they open. And we realized here with like the kind of funding we had and just how things are really done like on a small island in the Caribbean, that like that kind of didn't make sense, and that, you know, we just had to start like open the business as bare bones as possible and build it up as it moves along.
It's important to know that when you open a business, it's always going to be like this. You're always going to have an idea and it's going to change as you go. Like, it never, and this is something that not only I, like, friends that open businesses, like, they all have the same thing. Like, you have an idea and then reality happens and you have to realize this is how much money I have and this is what's happening, and, you know, those two are going to intersect somewhere, and that's it.
Like, if you're motivated, like if you really want to do it, like you can find people to help you, you can find resources. I think I've seen like a lot of young people be able to start businesses and start their own thing just because, you know, they like believe they could do it and they did it and they went for it. Whereas I think a lot of people think that like they're not old enough, they're not smart enough, they're not experienced enough, they don't have enough money, but I think those are all things you can kind of like gain along the way. I mean, obviously you're up against a lot more challenges, and it's going to be a lot more difficult, but like, you have the fact that you're young and you have energy. And
sure, it's going to be hard, but life is hard. Like, just, you know, just do it. With this video, and just like through us living here, I'm personally hoping that people would see that it's possible. Like, the beginning of the video, I stressed the fact that we didn't have any money, and it's like, we don't really have any money, but it's happening, and, you know, there's ways, I guess, like shattering that idea of like to start a business or to do something that you want, you know, which is something that we thought. Like, Leo was like, opening a restaurant is something that I'm gonna do when I'm old, which I also thought, like, I want to open a hotel, but that's not something that I'm gonna do later on when I have all these millions, which is never really gonna happen. Like, I'm never really gonna have those millions. Like, it's now. And I hope that, like, through us living here and like doing it, it's gonna just, in a small scale, just inspire the women here that they can, you know, do the same.